Listen to the UTA Truck Talk podcast.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Steve, for having me.
We are sitting countries apart right now. I am in northwest Iowa, and Zach, you are where again?
I'm in a town, Skopje, Macedonia, a small country in Eastern Europe, and I'm in the capital.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And what brings you to that part of the world?
Well, my wife is originally from here. She moved to the States about 8 years ago. And so when her and I got together, of course, we come here to visit with her family and friends, and we bring our daughter and soon to be second daughter here to visit her grandparents and family. So then we started a location here also. We just got into a new office. You can't see the background too well, but we're about 38 floors up and overlooking the city.
Wow, that is really cool.
Macedonia is a very unique country. It's a very small country now, but at one point, Macedonia was also the Macedonian Empire. And if you've heard of Alexander the Great, he was the ruler of the Macedonian Empire at like 23 years old. And that was in the 400s. So imagine he died at maybe 27. So imagine between the 400s and now, almost everybody still knows him, but he passed away at 27. That impact in that short amount of time.
Interesting.
Yes. And then Mother Teresa is also from the capital city, Skopje, where my wife is from.
Oh, some great history there.
It's part of the Balkans, and they say in the Balkans that there's more history in this small section of the world than the rest of the world combined. It's unique for sure. But yeah, it's nice to be here and spend time with friends and family. And of course, it's okay to have business here as well.
Yeah, a little work-life balance is always good, right?
Right.
So maybe just so those listening get a little better picture of you, Zach, could you maybe explain your background a little bit in the trucking industry?
Yes, of course. So I started with MHC back in 2014. I was a 22-year-old kid, and I was working very hard in the automotive industry. I was a general manager of a National Tire and Battery, if you've heard of them. And I kind of just thought to myself, there's got to be a better way to do things. I was working 80 hours a week, making okay money, but I just knew that there was a better way to go about life. And I started doing some research. I knew that I was pretty good at sales, and I found out that truck sales, of all places, was a good industry to go into. So I started calling around and found Brian Hopt, if you're familiar with Brian Hopt.
Yeah.
He's the one that gave me my opportunity in the industry as a punk 22-year-old kid, I say. And look back on it, the rest from there. I worked with MHC for a number of years, ended up moving to Chicago to run a dealership for them. And we were able to make it a pretty successful opportunity there for me. And then after that, after some years with MHC, I kind of felt like there was no more spaces to go up. I was at that point 27, 28, and I kind of felt like I had plateaued a bit. So I went ahead and partnered up with a trucking company, leasing company. We started a dealership. And that was, of course, through COVID. So we started this dealership. I'd kind of put everything I had into it. And then sure enough, COVID hits, and it's just me and one other guy in the office for a couple months, and that worries you a little bit. And then boom, like we talked about earlier, that 2020, 2021 market picked up on us, and we were able to do pretty successful there. And had a lot of fun growing that, and kind of realized that all the things that MHC taught me, all the trials and tribulations I went through as, I guess, younger in the industry, trying to figure out what it's all about, just overcome everything with action. I figured out how to piece everything together. And with that kind of gave me even more confidence to figure out it's time for me to do something on my own. And so when I got out of that partnership, I had a 1 year of, non-compete and 2 year of non-solicit. So I took a year off, and most people think that's crazy at 30 years old to take a year off of work. but I did some traveling. I grew my family and, everything there. But it gave me time to clear my brain to really game plan out what we wanted to do with Truth. And so with that, I strategized. I came up with all the developments. Okay, we want to help out companies, and we'll talk about everything a little bit later. But I knew that it was the right move for me there. And with that extra year of non-solicit, it limited me to not just go into buying and selling and have a dealership license. And that's what really expanded my brain to help with the other things, which has been a good facilitation towards everything for us.
Right, right. Well, that's interesting. So the dealership that you were a part of then, that was used trucks? Was it new trucks also?
We did new used trucks, and then also we had a wholesale division as well. So we grew okay. It was a very good dealership. We had some good people there. And like I said, the learning experiences, as you know, been in this industry for 14 years, it's a good business and industry to learn a lot from.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when did Truth actually start? Was that a thing when you were in the dealership then, or when did that whole concept of starting this really begin?
Truth started January 2023.
Okay.
So that's we're coming up on almost 3 years, and that's when I started Truth, and then went from there. We've been trying to figure out what our next step after everything that we've already accomplished is, of course.
Maybe tell me a little bit about your team. Are you the sole proprietor of this, and then you have support staff, or are you partnered on this, or?
Yes. So I'm sole proprietor. I just tell myself I'm business development, and then we have 9 other individuals with us. So a few of them you may have heard of. We have Nick Guyett with us. We have Steve Richardson, and then we have a gentleman named Alex Hansen who we actually sent over to the UTA golf event as well. But Nick has been around for a little over 10 years in the industry too. He was with MHC for a while as well. Steve Richardson and I worked very intimately together at MHC. So when he called me and said, "Hey, look, I know there's a better way to do this as well. I'm looking for some little bit of change." We knew that was the right fit just because of personal level, and we already had a lot of love there between us. And then the others we've had over here for a short time outside of one person. We started Truth in Macedonia a little over a year ago. So I've got a person here. Her name's Ivana, and she is basically my right hand. Without her, I don't think we could do anything because she's just so wonderful at everything she does. And so we're very happy that she's a part of the team as well. But all total, we have 9 people with us.
And so are you active in the trucking market there in Macedonia as well as the U.S., or is that you just have some staff there?
Yeah, so everything in Macedonia is all back office support for trucking in the operations in the States. So we have a BDC, Business Development Center here. We have salespeople, 2 of them that essentially all they do is call all day long to try to find fleets that want to sell equipment and put it in front of the team. So we're very organized as a team where we're holding 2 meetings per day. We're discussing what's going on, where we're finding it, how we're finding it. And then also there's a good amount of Eastern European trucking business in the United States. So I've paired those 2 gentlemen here with people that speak the same language or from the same background. One of them is from Serbia. One of them is from Macedonia. So it's able to pair up very well, and we're able to kind of get another niche market there.
Interesting. Well, it really broadened your perspective there. That's cool.
Yeah, our goal is to try to find people here that speak the different languages of the Eastern Europeans that are in trucking in the United States.
Right. Yeah, that's a growing number of drivers and operators from what I'm seeing.
They, as we know, there's about 4 million trucks on the road, and I'm not sure the percentage of minority or outside of the United States born citizens that are operating trucking companies, but I would be amazed if it's not somewhere around 10%.
Interesting. So maybe just so our listeners understand what, I ran across you, throughout the industry, of course, but more recently, you keep popping up on my Facebook Reels. And I'm not a huge Facebook guy, but from time to time when I'm on there, the Reels always catch my eye, and you've had some good content and different information that you're sharing, and which led to me contacting you through Messenger and asking you to join us on this podcast. But maybe for our listeners, what services are you offering? Is it, are you strictly working with dealerships? Do you work with, you mentioned trucking companies too. What's the balance there with used dealerships versus an actual fleet?
So we work with everything in between. So we'll work with trucking companies. We have some freight brokerage companies, some repair centers, and then we even have 2 factoring companies that we work with, and then dealerships. On the dealership side, we see that, okay, within the market that we've been in recently, and even before that when it was crazy, and, everybody was doing something, everybody realized that they needed to have diversity. If you have a trucking company, it's very tough to operate on those pennies without having a freight brokerage or a repair center or a dealership under you. And that's kind of the niche that we noticed is when a trucking company already has their own property, they have their own repair facility, it's the natural progression to add on a dealership. You already have the property, so it's just a matter of getting a dealership license and proceeding to understand what's next about it. But as you know, starting your own business can be tough, and in a section of your industry that you're unaware of, the complexities of it makes it even tougher. So we decided to start a program, and that's initially how Truth was formed, was an opportunity to help trucking companies start their own dealership. And we have programs that start from A to Z, whether it's dealership license, all the way to introducing you to people and everything in between. So we'll have 1 year, 2 year, 3 year agreements with these trucking companies and help them get their dealership established. So we have dealership license, accounting. I've got a background in accounting, and most people kind of look at accounting like it's just payroll, right? But accounting is so complex when it comes to financials and even inputting everything into QuickBooks the proper way. And then we have floor plan. We help people establish a floor plan. In this day and age, it's very tough now, and even tougher, almost impossible if you don't have at least 2 years' time in business. So we're able to help with our reputation and our background, get people floor plans before 2 years' time in business. And then we also do different pieces for marketing, financing, getting them set up with banks. We have the structure of the organization, whether it's the job descriptions or the invoicing information or even the legal contracts that you need. We have an attorney on staff that helps us make sure that everybody's covered that we work with. And we really just try to limit the exposure. As you know, if you are unorganized and don't have the right wording on your documentation, it can all come back to you and bite you in the butt, per se.
Absolutely. So the idea of helping these fleets actually operate a dealership is, of course, you're generating some additional revenue, but creating a dealership arm with these fleets. And so I'm kind of curious what the allure for the fleet is to actually take on that extra carrying cost, having to deal with sales. Is it that large of revenue stream that they see the opportunity, or what draws them to want to retail their own trucks?
Well, working very intimately with the trucking companies, and, we have a few trucking companies that we work business development and I'm essentially operations manager for a few trucking companies. Trucking is really a pennies business, especially in this market today. So you're really turning over every rock trying to find every penny that you can. And when you look at trade cycles and you look at having a trucking company, what it relates to, you trade a unit in at X and you can retail it at Y. And you look at those pennies in between that we can say, it makes sense for them to be able to diversify their organization. So when we help them and we communicate to them, they have their own repair center. So we even help them structurally, whether it's under X holding company or Y holding company. We make sure that they're diversified in their organizational chart as well. But knowing that if they can average $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 more per truck to the bottom line to them, rather than trading in that truck, and say that company has even all the way down to 80 trucks on a trade cycle of 3-4 years, that can add up to a lot of different pennies per se, right?
Right.
And not only that, the revenue does help. So when it comes to terms of financing new equipment for the growth of that trucking company, and you are able to show an arm that's got a whole lot of revenue turning through it, you're able to help your chances on getting better financial rates and more equipment loaned to you, which helps facilitate your growth. That's on if you're buying new trucks. But say you're buying used trucks, so you've made that few $1,000s extra on the sale of your retired equipment, and then you want to grow with used trucks. I have one trucking company that we're doing a dealership for, and they're about 400 trucks. And we're growing everything with used trucks. So imagine instead of having a relationship where you have to pay this much for a used truck, where you can pay this much and just turn that back into the trucking company savings, that's a whole lot of rocks you just overturned to save some pennies. And you've now got it on both sides.
Absolutely. So is there like a sweet spot? You mentioned one fleet with 80 trucks and then another one with 400. I mean, is there a size or a scale that's more effective or less effective?
Well, we've worked with trucking companies all the way down to 50 trucks. So that's what you're meaning, how big the trucking company needs to be? Yes. So we've worked with trucking companies all the way down to 50 trucks and all the way up to 3,500 trucks. And everything in between, we've seen what works and doesn't work. With the 50 truck company, we've noticed that they had no aspirations of becoming a well-known dealership, but they wanted to make sure that they had the opportunities and the benefits of having that dealership license and being able to understand the financing and the accounting sides all behind it to be able to get a few of those pennies. Now, when it came to the bigger companies, a few of them have realized that they want to grow their leasing companies. And so that was a great outlet for them to grow their leasing companies and help them ultimately grow their whole organization. So I wouldn't say that there's any trucking company that it doesn't benefit. Now, if you don't have your own repair center and your own property, it's kind of hard to get a dealership license out of somebody's house or whatever. But if they want to benefit from it, they all can. It just depends on how much they can benefit on it. Now, when you have 400 trucks and you have another 800 trucks in leasing, and you're talking about 200, 300 trucks a year just going for leasing, that's a big benefit. Even if you save $2,000 on the buy and make $2,000 extra on the sale when it's done, that's huge. But the 50 truck company, if you're doing 5 to 20 trucks a year maximum, it's still a big benefit, especially in this market.
Absolutely. So the leasing, just so I understand, is that the fleets are actually then carrying the assets and leasing them to drivers or independent owner operators that way?
It depends on the fleet, but the most structural, safe way to have your organization set up is you have a holding company that owns the operations company, and then you have a leasing company owned as well. You purchase all equipment under the leasing company, which is the asset company, and then you in turn lease it back to your own trucking company. That means if there's some sort of accident or something in the operations company, you just lease that equipment onto a second operations company and dissolve this one. That's the safest way to operate. Now, some people take that leasing company. After 2021, a lot of people had a lot of cash flow and they didn't know what to do with it. And so you kind of have two choices. You either pay taxes on that cash flow or you invest it back in the business. So a lot of people's accountants told them to invest it back in the business and start a leasing company where they purchased and acquired a bunch of assets. And then at that point, they went and started leasing it to outside people.
Oh, that's an interesting concept. I guess I wouldn't have thought about that, but that was some good direction to invest that back in there. You miss the opportunity to capitalize and grow that. Now we know that of course the interest rates have gone up. You talked about pennies as far as the freight market. The rates are way down. Interest rates are up. And then another thing that's really seemed to climb here in the last couple of years is the insurance cost for these fleets. Mm-hmm. And does that leasing arm, is that affected differently by the way they handle their insurance on that side?
Leasing, so banks, insurance companies, they don't like to insure leasing companies, and that's where you have some hang up. All right. Okay. So that's why you have to have it under the same umbrella of the holding company to where you can show the operations revenue as the income for the financing. When it comes to insurance, insurance is something that unless you have your own insurance company, it's very tough to dictate how much you can save on insurance. So we could go deep in the weeds on how we help trucking companies with insurance, and depending on size, we help people get self-insured. So essentially what that means is you put a good chunk of money, whether it's $500,000 or $1 million, towards a bond. And with that bond, you go to an insurance agency and you insure through them. You pay them to allow you to use their name and have a cord form. But then everything that happens to the trucking company after that, you have to pay for it cash. So insurance has gotten so expensive. 97% of challenges with insurance are going to be fender benders in the truck stop. They bumped this, they bumped that. So we help people get self-insured, but they pay those fender benders on their own.
Okay.
But outside of that, insurance is another thing that, watching your safety score, ensuring that you have low numbers. It's like golf and safety scores. You want to have the lower the numbers, the better. Allows you to help get you better interest rates, no accidents, watching your driver hiring programs. Are you hiring with X amount of experience? Are you staying away from hiring people in the SAP program, substance abuse program? Those sorts of things kind of help you get better insurance.
So is that something your team helps these fleets along, Are you actually monitoring that, or do you work with a third party on that and just give them guidance on who the contact would be?
So we monitor all of that. My team, that's why I mentioned Ivana. We could not work without Ivana. She is the lifeline of our organization when it comes to the brain. But essentially with a trucking company, what we do is the first thing we implement is reporting across all divisions of the company. And that can be whether they have 4 or 5 companies, however it is, we input that reporting across all companies to come in real time or weekly. So we've integrated Power BI with a few of our clients to allow it to come in real time. But then we also have our own CRM and platform that communicates with their data called TruthForce. And so it communicates and generates us reporting. And we'll measure everything from dispatch performance to maintenance to the specs of the vehicles, what's spending more. We'll talk about where we're at in equipment, how many trucks are on the road, how many loads delivered, and then even accounting. A big thing people don't think about when operating a repair center or a trucking company is how much money in accounts receivable you have open. With repair centers, we've noticed that the number one driving factor for repair centers going out of business is performing work for a trucking company. They go and then they never pay it. Or a trucking company kind of tricks the repair center. They'll come in for a few weeks. They'll pay the invoices right away. And then they rack up a big $20,000, $30,000 amount in accounts payable to them, accounts receivable to the repair center, and then they ghost. And same thing with trucking companies. We think on the truck sales side, it's easy. You buy a truck, you put a driver in it and let them run. But there's so many intricacies there that they need pay advances. If they own their own truck, they need the repairs paid for them because they can't afford it on their own. So in that case, you have this open balance with each driver, and monitoring that to know how much you have out to each person and how much you've written off for the year is a big factor on if you're going to be net positive at the end of the year or net negative.
So these fleets with the service shops, they're performing work not only on their own trucks, but also on the trucks that they're leasing. How about external work? Just say the fleet down the road does not have that ability. Are they open to doing work for other companies as well?
That's dependent on the company and the owner. And me personally, I see benefits both sides, depending on how big you are or small you are. If you're a trucking company that really knows what you're dialed into, working on your own equipment and the people that are within your leasing organization, to me, makes sense. But if you're a trucking company that has expanded opportunities, you have multiple entities, working on outside people is a no-brainer, because then everything you do for the outside company pays for everything on the inside, right? So you can see the whole benefit there. But 48 Laws of Power, one of my favorite books, there is a chapter in there that says concentrate your forces. And so I believe that some of those trucking companies owners, knowing how structured and organized they are, they only buy one spec of truck. They only buy one spec of trailer. They only run with a certain portion of drivers. Their repair center should only work on their equipment and be 100% specialized for their equipment.
Yeah, and at some point you can get so diversified that it's kind of hard to keep your hand on all the different ropes and chains, right?
Yes, exactly.
How do you initially go about determining what your customer, what different services they should look at obtaining from you? Or how does that process go when you sit down with a fleet? What's that initial discussion look like?
We sit down with the owner or owners and their board if they have, and we discuss where they see this going. At the end of the day, I could find a 50 truck or less trucking company and help them do everything to grow, but maybe they don't want to grow. And so when we're looking on these trucking company owners, Brian Hopt taught me years ago that customers are experts about themselves, right? And so that stuck with me in every line of what I do. We discuss what's important to them. What do they want to see? And then how we can fit that in. Most of the time, say the trucking company's reaching out to us about a dealership or something, they know exactly what they want and what exactly they want the end game to be. It's just a matter of, are they going to take 5 years to get there, or are they going to do it in much less time? And, speaking of the dealership side, everybody that we've consulted on the dealership side has opened and started a successful company and grown it. So I tell them all, you don't need us. You'll figure this out on your own. We're just going to take that learning curve and shorten it way up, and the expenses that you're going to spend along the way and shrink those a little bit.
Right. So are they actively wholesaling too, or is it primarily just retail sales when they have that dealership?
A little bit of both. I try to introduce them to people in the organization or in our industry that can help them, buy and sell amongst them. Sometimes, say you have a bigger fleet and you have to unload a good portion of trucks. It doesn't make sense to hold on to that paper on that asset on your books for too long. So unloading it on the wholesale side does help them free up some cash flow to use that in other areas. So it really depends again on what that dealership that we help consult wants.
Right. Yeah. Well, hopefully we can get them to be members of the UTA too, because they're definitely part of the used truck business, right? So
there's a few of them. Yeah.
Any guidance there or support from you on that end would be great. We're always looking to add to the membership. So
yep, we did have a few of them go to that golf outing. We'll have a few of them go in November as well to the UTA convention. So we are actively supporting that and every relationship that we've grown over the years.
Are you offering service contracts then too on some of those units that they're leasing out or that they're retailing? Do you get much into that?
What do you mean service contracts?
Service contracts like National Truck Protection. I mean, do you offer any options like that? True North?
Yes. We don't offer the contract ourselves. We're affiliates with NTP and Truck Masters. but we set their dealership and themselves up and their repair center to be able to work on the trucks after the fact. So yes, we do work with NTP, we do work with truck masters, and we help our specific clientele set up through them.
Great.
And we teach them the ins and outs on how to handle everything, and also add it on to their own carriers on the leasing company side as well.
How difficult is it for them to obtain and be able to utilize the different software that's out there, especially from the OEM side? Sometimes that's held pretty close to the chest, and when they have their own shops, how do they navigate that?
Well, that is a challenge, and that's, at the end of the day, everything comes down to relationships depending on where they're at. So we're working with dealerships and trucking companies all across the nation. But for example, if you're that trucking company I mentioned that they buy one spec of truck trailer and they run one set of loads, their trucks are all one brand. So go into that brand and that dealership that you purchased the equipment from, and we help you get set up to where you get the software for free every year. And we also help them get set up with their specific dealer entity that they're working with to be able to perform their own warranty work.
Okay.
Right?
Great.
So another thing we don't think about in our side of the world, the truck sales world, is a truck being down for a week because it's waiting on service at the dealership costs you $8,000, sometimes more, sometimes less. But if you can repair that truck today in your own shop and cover it under warranty, not only do you get paid from the manufacturer for the warranty, but you also get that truck on the road today and make up that extra money. A lot of companies were to the point where if it was a knock sensor, they would pay the $1,200 to replace it on their own just to get the truck on the road. But wait, I can help you get set up to where you can also get paid on that warranty work a percentage too.
Great. That, again, when times are slim like they are right now, you're exactly right. That downtime is, that just has such a huge effect on these companies and, even just the owner operators. And we take that for granted sometimes that you lose a week's worth of work. That's huge.
Yes. And, we've discussed a few times that the times are very down right now. But what shocks the most people when we're speaking to them in that initial meeting is we talk about how much money they're losing now. I tell them they lost 15 times that in 2021 because they weren't maximizing their returns on everything. Imagine if we're able to find all these pennies in this market, how much that could equate to when the market's actually very good.
So true. So to be effective in the used truck business, you got to have good salespeople, right? You had the benefit of coming through a well-known organization, MHC, where I think they do an excellent job of training and onboarding their staff. How do you help these fleets when they begin a dealership train and just maintain a good salesperson or persons?
I would say that's 20% of what we do is sales training. Back at MHC, I was very blessed to have some of the greatest people in our industry raise me up in the industry. So I had Brian Hopt, who I'm sure you're familiar with him. He's one of the best salespeople there are. I also had Ken Hoffman teaching me a lot, and then a lot of people in the MHC Truck Source brand. I had Sean Barnett. I had a guy named Joe Fracascia, a gentleman named Dan Patterson, who we joked that they were like my father and grandfather. And I looked at Joe Fracascia, who was a very successful salesperson, still is with MHC. And I said, hey, I'd really love to learn from you. Can I ride to work with you every day? And I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to annoy you so much, but I promise I'll retain everything. And I took all that knowledge. And at that point, I joked that my brain was a sponge. I took all that knowledge and I wrote it all down. Later on, when I had my own dealership with MHC, I was helping over the whole Truck Source brand under Brian Hopt. We created and joked that it's called Zak's University. And you've heard of those books called Cooking for Dummies or something for Dummies that they just listed out to where it's impossible to mess up. We came up with Zak's University and did the same thing for truck sales. So we would have people that would, there's a lot of people out there that have the right attitude and the right mentality, and they're willing to work, but they know nothing about trucks or they know nothing about sales. We teach them everything to where it can get them to the point where they're able to be successful in our industry. And one guy, I have him, he's Brian Bolick, one of my best friends still to this day. We hired him and he's like, dude, I don't know anything about trucks or sales. He's like, but I promise you I'll be the hardest working person in the organization. And I said, I can work with that. Right. And so he came in, we took him through Truth University, or Zak's University. Sorry. Now we've named it Truth University. And we made him hit the highest honors in MHC his first full year. And, with that, we started critiquing it. We started adjusting some things. And now we've turned it into Truth University, where we have a full program that we put all salespeople through. And it teaches them things down to exactly how to follow up, exactly what to say. We have a script for every phone call that comes in, and we teach them how to make it their own, but be dialed in to where they're guiding the salesperson across that path. And we teach them the sales process and everything there is to know in between on marketing themselves. And then most of our clients we're plugging into TruthForce, which is our proprietary software for CRM integrations and inventory integrations, which can talk to their website and everything. But through TruthForce, you're able to actually even automate the responses back. So say we get a lead on Facebook and it goes straight into the CRM software, and then the CRM software goes through, texts them, email them, and then a couple of days later texts them, emails them, and sends talking points back to the salesperson telling them what they need to do next.
So are you using AI to generate those?
Yeah, so it's got AI powered through it. And then we've also got AI chat bots on people's websites as well. But then a lot of what we do is just funnels that we've set up on the back end that tell TruthForce what to do when a lead comes in or when a contact's in.
So for our listeners, and those used truck dealers that are, not, to the scale of MHC or Aero with all of those options. I mean, that's a possibility for our listeners to reach out to you guys and to, maybe take advantage some of that, as well.
Yes, absolutely. And there's a few people that's all they do with us is have that CRM platform, and we plugged them in and try to help them navigate and grow their business. But that's something that's dear to my heart, and what I would love to accomplish later on in our industry is get together. You have Volvo and Kenworth and everything 20 groups where they're talking about things and helping each other. I'd love to get a group of independents together and we talk about what we're seeing in our markets, what's working, what's not working, how we're handling accounting, whatever it may be, and help each other. And I think that we're all so worried maybe about, oh, this guy might take this customer or this customer, but I've got a couple independents that I work with intimately. I'm just happy to be able to help them discuss their business and help them on their business, right? And if we could put something like that together on our used truck side, on our independent side, I really believe we could all move forward faster together.
Well, I think you're on to something there. I would agree. We're better together, and yeah, we each hold our own clientele, and sometimes I think we get too hung up on trying to protect and keep close, and we're missing out on opportunities because we're not sharing information, and so kudos to you on that. I would like to dig more into that with you after this podcast.
Absolutely. I mean, there's 4 million trucks on the road. How many of them does each independent need to sell each year to be happy? So
you mentioned the CRM. I think that, as we meet with our dealer group, and we talk about maybe some of the challenges that we all face. I think a customer management system is a big deal. But also that inventory management side, I guess, how do you handle the inventory management, piece of the puzzle?
Well, I'm a control freak. So I'm one of those people, I know where every penny's always at. So TruthForce has an inventory system in it that we've integrated. So you're able to plug and play and know what's going on at all points. You're able to attach photos in it, costs, add-ons, everything in between. But I also see a lot of people using Excel. So I have a tailored in Excel form that I'm able to get to all people that work with us as well, if they're more Excel people. And you're able to see where the truck's location, everything's automated by colors, and it all talks to the sold and the non-sold inventory. So for me, you have to have some sort of very detailed program and platform that you're tracking inventory on. But I'm also, like I said, a control freak. It would mess me up big time if I didn't know where a truck was, or if I didn't have status on a truck, or if I didn't even have a truck in inventory. That's something that's very near and dear to my heart.
And then the next piece to that, Zach, would be the advertising portion. Right? How are they getting their inventory out there to the public? What kind of platforms are you encouraging them to look at when they start up their dealership?
When I started in 2014, everybody said I was crazy because I was on social media and I was on Craigslist and all these outlandish platforms. But those platforms are what allowed me to become successful in this industry. So we could come up with Truck Paper, Commercial Truck Trader, because I very much value the reputability of those companies and those entities. But also we teach them how to run their own ads. We teach them how to format the ads on social media, Google AdWords, and everything in between there, because there's so much diversity when it comes to social media compared to what they see on Truck Paper and Commercial Truck Trader too. So you really need both of them. Right. And I know that Commercial Truck Trader and Truck Paper are doing their own thing behind the scenes on social media, but it also is very good to have a good marketing team and understanding on how to run the ads through social media and Google on your own. We do that. That's all plugged in through TruthForce. We teach them how to do it manually, but we also teach them how to plug it in through TruthForce as well, to where, again, the lead automatically comes through and it does its thing on the AI behind the scenes.
So they have access to all the leads, but then you also are seeing that on the backside too, and giving some guidance, maybe if you're noticing maybe some retention issues or some, they're not capitalizing on some of that. Do you get to that level also?
Yes, we do. It automatically generates reports for that. So it's easy for me to be involved there. And I'm as involved or as little involved as they want me to be. I try, my mom always taught me not to stick my nose where it doesn't belong. So I let them guide me on how involved they want me to be.
Perfect. I'm just looking at your website here, seeing if I missed anything, or maybe you've got an area or a topic that we haven't discussed yet that you feel would be beneficial for the listeners yet.
I'm very happy that you guys are going this route with these podcasts. I believe that we can really expand the UTA and everything that it does based on kind of fitting into the mold of where the world's going. You and I joked before on the call that the COVID market really changed a lot of things for technology. And I like that you guys are advancing the UTA in order to get to that demographic as well, and to really try to put everything full circle with these podcasts. This is going to be amazing.
Well, thank you for that. We're really, really excited about it. And again, just want to thank you for participating and being one of our initial guests. Been great having you, and I really look forward to some further discussion on maybe how we can do some more roundtable type groups or that with some of our used truck associates. So, well, Zach, we're quite a ways apart here, but I'm glad you could make this work. And yes, I wish you the best and safe travels, and we'll be in touch.
Same to you. And anything I can do to help you guys or the future, I'm happy to help you. You have my phone number, email. You can always get a hold of me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Take care.
You too. Have a great day, Steve.